Yeah, you've probably seen these little black stools you get at Walmart, different retail outlets online. I think I might have bought some of these on Amazon. Anyway, they're cool stools, $10. The mechanical part of them never fails. What does fail is if you've got cats like I do. You guys know about my cats, Stinky and Weirdo. You know, they absolutely trash this because it's kind of that cheap, crappy plastic. So the problem with these, in addition to being that this plastic is really kind of substandard and crappy, is that when you take it off, you can see that this has been pounded down by my fat ass and the fat asses of many of my guests and friends. So you take a look at that. Is there something you could do about it? Absolutely. This stuff's like, I don't know, 1/8-inch fiberboard or something with some batting and this crappy pleather. My plan is to straighten that back out a little bit, use this 1/2-inch sheet of plywood right here, and that foam padding and some upholstery fabric from a recent sewing video we did, and make this stool into something that's worth sitting on. So my first order of business, I guess, is going to be get this crappy black pleather off of here and get this ready to use as a template. Best way I can think of right now to get it off is with a trusty old Stanley knife, utility knife. I'm just going to cut around it and knock it off. I don't care about this anymore when I'm done with it. It's just going to give me my location for my holes. Boy, you cut that off there and there really isn't a whole lot in there. You got sort of a crappy batting inside the pleather and then this foam rubber, which is super thin. It's wafer thin, as Monty Python put it. So are we going to miss this? No, let's get rid of that piece of crap. This is what we need right here. This is going to be our template. I'm not worried about the nut plate thing because we're going to use a piece of 1/2-inch plywood, so we'll be able to screw right up through the bottom of the seat into the wood itself. We won't need the nut plates, but we do need these holes in it because the rivets on top of the seat need someplace to go, and I don't want to pre-stress the plywood by having them pushing against that. So we'll probably just make some indentations for these holes, maybe drill them about halfway through on the drill press. Okay, so everything's traced. I've got my little center punch holes here for the rivet relief holes. I've got my mounting holes marked out, which I will pilot drill so my wood screws go in a little bit better. I absolutely hate shoving a wood screw up into a fresh piece of wood. I'd much prefer having a little pilot holes. Anyway, I got 2 of them, so I'm going to take a jigsaw and cut them out. It's a little bit too unwieldy right now to throw up on the bandsaw, but the jigsaw should do a really good job with it. You see this original seat had holes right here that fit right over the top of these rivets, so it's kind of a relief for the rivets on that pan. So I need to take these holes and drill them into this wood, and I think a 3/8-inch spade bit will probably give me the relief I need. So the original Chinese template that I use doesn't necessarily hit on those rivets the way I think it should. So what I've done is I've countersunk the 2 that I made for the 2 stools that I'm reupholstering. That should give us a little bit of extra relief for the rivets on the stool. Now I need to cut some foam. I've got some 1-inch sheets of foam. I'm going to put 2 in there, so we'll put 2 inches of foam padding on this, and I've got some fabric, and I guess once I cut my foam out, it's just a matter of putting my fabric on there and stapling it down, yeah? So my foam's cut, and this is the sexy fabric I'm going to use on it. You might recognize it from the bag I made for my little computer. It's good stuff, nice sturdy fabric, looks kind of neat. It was originally made for just this exact thing, and I've got a ton of it, so I'm going to put it on here. I've got my wood, 2 1-inch layers of foam. You notice the edges are crooked. I think that'll probably get compressed down, and you won't see any sharp edges on this stuff. So, okay, so I cut this piece of fabric out, and it's just a little bit bigger than this. You can see that, and it won't quite reach up here, but I'm going to squish it down a little bit and put this under some compression so it doesn't have square edges. It'll have nice round edges and should work just fine. However, that being said, I'm only making the one. The other one's going to sit right over there until I'm sure that this method works. The idea is going to be to staple one side on this side, and then staple across on this side, this side, and this side. We get those 4 points stapled. We'll take a look and see how everything's going and decide whether or not to proceed or to pull the staples out and go back and redo it. Okay, so I've tacked here, 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 and here. You can see that it's kind of holding it. Now if you look at it from this side, you can see it's kind of starting to take a shape. It's got a nice curvature on that edge rather than being squared off. The one thing I guess to think about is how tight you want to have that. You can see you could really smash it down and really reef it in there, but I'm not sure that's what you want. So I'm trying to keep about yay much compression on it, and I think that's going to be good. If I can keep that much compression on the edge, come back. I'm just going to go back in between these 4 staples that I put on my cardinal points. I'm going to come back and pick up the ones in between. And then I'm going to come back and pick up the ones after that. Something to think about from what I've seen is these little staples, maybe they don't go in all the way. Then all that's holding this fabric is just the legs. So if you take a little tiny hammer and you tap them down, you're using that bar to help hold the fabric. And that's going to be important when you start putting this stuff under load. So far so good. We'll just go and fill in the gaps around this thing and see how it comes out. And if this all works out, then I'll charge into the second one with a fair amount of confidence. If it doesn't, you'll never see this video and we'll never speak of it again. Okay, you can see I've gone back and I've picked up the points in between. Something I didn't mention before, but I think it's important. Everything I've ever read on the subject of upholstering says you want to take this one, go across, get that one. Then you want to come over here, get this one, go across and get that one. Now when we're filling in, you don't want to go just around the horn here. You want to still do that same pattern, across and across, because we're trying to put tension into the top side of this fabric and pull tension out. And you can see how it's sort of starting to take shape, sort of starting to look like a professionally done cushion. I don't know how that happened. There's still time for me to mess it up. So from here out, the next thing is to go ahead and I guess work the fabric down. I'm going to try and take these pieces I have to fold over, and I'm going to fold them over all to the right. If you keep them all going the same way, you don't end up with 2 overlapping, which will make a high spot in your cushion and screw up your stool for later on. And you can see I've just stapled the living snot out of this thing. It looks pretty good. I got that little tiny hammer there. This is the type of staple gun I'm using. It's just an old Stanley spring-loaded staple gun. I know there's better ones out there. If you use a better one, you don't have to use the hammer to come in and set the staples. These are the staples that I'm using. They're T50 staples, 3/8 of an inch long, which should hold that fabric nice, but won't poke anybody in the back side if they come through the plastic. So what's this thing look like flipped over? There you go. That's what it looks like. It's nice and sturdy. The fabric feels good. I'm going to mount it up to the stool that it came off of and see if there's anything I need to be aware of before I put that one together. So there you go. There's the cushion back on the seat. I think it looks pretty good. You see it's just kind of that same crappy old thing. It's loaded, but it's still got some cushion for your large and fleshy buttocks to sit on. So this is totally within the scope of projects that somebody could do in a weekend. I think I'm maybe 45 minutes into it, which is maybe an hour into it, but you got to figure half of that time is probably just jacking around with the camera and getting things set up to give a shot. So anyway, there you go. I'm going to do the other one now. I think everything worked out good. And these are the finished stools. They look really pretty good, I think. I like the pattern. I like the classic black utilitarian structure of it. They came out pretty good. I don't think they were too hard to do, really. I mean, you can see they've got plenty of resilience. They're very sturdy. Cost me $6 to do it. So if I'd gone to replace those stools, it would have been 30 bucks. And they were pretty bad looking when they were brand new. And I think this looks a whole lot better. It's like getting an epic upgrade. These are like purple stools with a plus 15 to awesome. So anyway, there you go. That's how you do it. I learned how to do that today. Woohoo! I kind of want to reupholster some other stuff now. So if you got a reupholstery job that you want to get done, give me a shout. I might be interested in helping you out with it.